All right, we are live for episode 4.5. Yes, we could do half episodes because if you guys remember, Thad and I did the first half of covering the fourth episode of Picard. In this episode, we're bringing on Ian. Say hi to everyone, Ian. Maybe you can't hear us. Okay.
Can you hear us, Ian? We might have lost him.
Uh-oh. All right. Well, hopefully, if the internet cooperates, we can start.
Hopefully, we'll have Ian. Yeah.
Let's see here.
So, it should be connected.
Hello, Ian. All right, and we're back, I think, I hope.
Hopefully for good.
Hopefully for good. We are here to discuss episode 4 of Picard with our special guest, Ian. Welcome, Ian. Hopefully you can hear us all the way from...
Hi. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Cool.
Perfect.
Well,
how's it going?
Yes.
Don't know what happened there.
Yeah. Just a little
It happens.
Yeah.
The streaming is all aware.
The stream needs to
Assuming you
warm
can hear
up
me
a
okay
little
now.
bit, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we can hear you.
It might be my internet. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll make it work. This is the hazards of live streaming. Is you never quite know what to expect out of your internet.
Yeah.
My internet, Dan's internet, whoever else is joining us is internet. It's always a gamble. But it seems like we're off and running now. You've been steady with us for about a minute now, so I think hopefully we should be good.
Fingers
Okay.
crossed.
So
Yeah, touch wood. Let's jump into the episode. I think we should. There's no really intro or anything like that here on Core Setting. I do want to start this new thing where we, like, how did you watch it? Who'd you watch it with? How was it? You know, did you stay up late? Did you, because for me, I talked about in the beginning, Thad and I stayed up late, watched it right when it aired. So, but Bill, let's
Ian,
start
where
with
did
you.
you-
Okay.
Oh, start with me.
Yeah.
I watched it after, it was Thursday night my time. I watched it after work. I had to wait all day. I didn't wake up super early and watch it before the work day. So I sat at work and avoided Twitter and tried to not see anything that might taint or spoil anything. And pretty much as soon as I got home from work, I popped it on and gave it a go. I watched it with family. So what about you, Ian? How did you experience this episode for the first time?
Well, my first watch was in work. I managed to watch it, so kind of got paid to watch it, which is always good. And then watched it properly. Then on yeah, don't tell my boss that.
Yeah.
We won't.
I watched it properly then
Secrecy.
Friday night then.
Okay,
So
perfect.
sat down properly on the telly and watched it properly. Because the first time was only on my phone anyway, so it's never quite as good then.
Yeah, I've done that with short treks. Like there have been times when the shorts would premiere. I have a little business card holder right in front of my monitor. I'll pop my phone up on there and stick a headphone in and watch the new stuff, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I haven't done it with Picard yet. I feel like I want to watch Picard like on the
I
TV.
try and get in there early, just watch it, so I can go on my phone then. I don't have to worry about any spoilers.
There you go.
Then watch
Yeah, I can
then
understand
later
that.
on.
Yeah, definitely. I can
Just to
definitely
avoid
understand
anything.
that. Sure. Yeah, and you guys have to wait longer. You're waiting like a day with having
Yeah, I think
it out there and people talking about it.
yeah, it's obviously the day after you guys, so we've got to wait a little bit.
Yeah.
Right.
But just in case. Definitely better on a telly than a phone, though.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right. Looks gorgeous.
Can't argue with that.
So Ian, since you've watched it twice, I say we start with you. What are your overall thoughts of the episode?
I thought it was good. It obviously followed on from the rest of the first three. As he built it up nicely. I was expecting them to go to Free Cloud because they sort of made a big thing of that at the end.
Yeah.
And they just sort of put that on the back burner. It was a bit like going after Spock in Discovery. Every episode they were doing it, but they took them ages to get around to actually doing it.
Yeah.
But no, it was really good. Really good. And definitely loved the end as well.
Yeah, the end is... Yeah.
That's the last 2 episodes in a row now. They've stuck something in right at the end. So wonder if they'll do that every time now.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bill, what do you think? We haven't talked yet, so this is...
we haven't really talked about the episode. I really liked it. I felt like it was... they seem to be going in this like sort of chapter format. Like first 3 episodes are seen like directed by a single person and kind of seen as like a 3-part portion of this story. This is the beginning of a new chapter in quotes, or a part. I don't know exactly what they're calling it, but it felt like that. It felt like it was a step forward. Like the story was taking another sizable step. Now they have this sort of motley crew, as they talked about in the Grey Room, and they're off on a mission. They're in a ship. They're going places. So it definitely felt like a step forward, where the story's got some momentum moving forward now. Like you said, Ian, I was surprised. I stayed away from spoilers. I didn't expect the diversion to this Romulan reclamation colony gone bad. I loved the 2-pronged like introduction that we got to this place. I love the prequel, like the flashback in the teaser where it's like full of hope, and it's got supposedly maybe a bright future. The atmosphere there is very, very bright and vibrant. And then when Picard gets there later in the episode in real time, it's a much different atmosphere there, much darker, much more menacing, less hopeful environment. I love the visual storytelling of the 2 arrivals for Picard there. Really good stuff on that level. Yeah. What about you, Dan?
I like the episode as well. If I had to put it into words, it's like quietly powerful.
Yeah.
First of all, the direction. There's this shot where they're looking down on the planet, and there's this slow, smooth pan towards, and then it shows Picard sitting there. I was just like, oh, the direction. But also, it had some powerful moments when he's like, he comes back and he's in the, like the center of the town, and there's a bunch of all these like businesses that's Romulans only, and all this like signage and stuff, and he just starts tearing that down,
totally different
throwing
feel
it
when you come
down,
back.
and then just coming in. Yeah, that was just, for me, that was just like, oh man, that was awesome.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I found all that stuff on the planet, both in the teaser, like in the flashback portion of it, and when he gets there later in real time with the rest of the episode. There's something about the production design, the costume design, the stuff the Romulans are wearing, especially in the flashback at the beginning, that feels so at home with TNG. It feels like a natural extension of TNG. The architecture of the town, the settlement, reminds me a lot of like what Herman Zimmerman did with Star Trek Insurrection. With that town, it feels at home. It feels very much a piece with 24th century Star Trek stuff. Costume design, production design, all that stuff felt really good. So I love that about it too. I love the design elements, the look of it, everything on the planet.
You got to see some TNG Romulans as well. Did you notice there was some of them even had the same hair that they had on TNG as well? So you did feel like they were pulling it all the different Romulans. They're putting them together now. They're all like they feel like they're all together.
Yes,
it was really good.
Agreed. Yeah, every element of the production, I think, really did a slam bang job of presenting this Romulan colony as a convincingly like sprawling big place with a big population of people from all over the Romulan culture, and I think they did a really good job of making it feel big and making it feel real.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, which is nice, because this was like kind of our first away mission from, the past 2 or 3 episodes have been really similar sets and stuff. So this is a little bit of a departure that we've seen, and moving into the actual Star Trek universe, which was cool.
Yeah. The other thing, real quick, I'll just say that I love I said it last week too, but even in this week, I love the way that they're introducing backstory, telling us what happened, filling us in on all the nitty gritty. This is what happened between Nemesis and now, in a non like information dump, like in a captain's log kind of way. Like it's all naturally introduced through these different interactions Picard has, either with the Admiral a couple episodes ago, or in this episode. I feel like we got a lot of context and a lot of color to, what happened in lead up to all this through his conversation with that ill-fated Romulan ex-senator who confronts Picard at the colony. Like he gives this whole monologue about he was there when Picard showed up at the Senate and gave this emotional speech about we're going to save you. Like all this stuff, like that's stuff that I certainly wish we could have seen in a perfect world, but I think the show's doing a really good job of giving us that background and giving us all that extra stuff to give us the answers to all the questions that I'm sure we all have about how did we get here? Like what did it look like in the in-between years that led to this point?
But
I like the way the show's handling all that information.
But it's really well balanced, right? So they do that explanation side of it, but they're also moving the story along too. So it's like kind of nicely interwoven between, not using too many flashbacks, talking about what happened, and it's beautifully balanced.
Yeah.
Yep.
Rob in the chat says he loves the Romulan warrior nuns, and I think that's sort of a big thing we have to talk about here is this absolute candor, the name of the episode.
Yeah.
This Romulan, I don't know if it's a religion or a branch of Romulan society that has this outlook on life to be absolutely with candor. They don't lie. They tell the truth about everything. They embrace lost causes. What did you think, Ian, of the introduction of this Romulan female-driven sect that is obviously a big part of this episode and setting up Eleanor, our new character, moving forward?
Yeah, I say obviously because it's a female-only one. Obviously, it puts sort of Eleanor on he's almost an outsider in the sort of little group as well. And obviously, with them just telling the truth straight off. Obviously, it puts them like the opposite Tal Shiar, really, isn't they? It couldn't be more different for Romulans.
Yeah. Yes. Great point.
No, they came across as good. So obviously they were like sort of big fighters and things as well. So it's almost like it'd be like a sort of like a Shaolin monk type.
Shaolin monk,
similar to that.
Yeah. Definitely.
Obviously, it's sort of come across as like a religious thing, but I don't think they are.
Like I wouldn't. Religious is probably the wrong.
Ritualistic.
Ritualistic.
Yeah.
They're more apt labels, I guess. But yeah, I think it's. I definitely got TNG vibes from both in the teaser again and when Picard arrives again later in real time. Just his conversations with the female leader of this group, the conversations that he has with her about Elnor, how difficult it must have been for Elnor to grow up in this sort of set of circumstances and all. Like that just felt very TNG to me. That felt very at home. Patrick Stewart was doing those exact kinds of scenes, that kind of dialogue back in the day in the TNG movies and in TNG proper as a show. So that there was a lot of stuff in this episode that really felt like a natural extension from The Next Generation. Like it's not like they've driven home many times. It's not a sequel. It's not TNG Part 2. No. It's a new story, and it's a natural sort of move forward for this character. but it feels like the same person, and it feels like it's coming from the same universe that we spent so much time with in the Next Generation. And it's spin-off series. Wow.
We had Picard fencing again as well.
Yes.
A little practicing with Eleanor.
Yes, it's great. And I think the fencing and bringing the Three Musketeers, like a book, like a classic book, as his sort of like that's what he's giving Eleanor. That's perfect Picard. Like that's exactly what Picard would give. He would bring literature. He would bring a classic piece of human history to sort of introduce Eleanor.
Well, when he said about the Three Musketeers, the first thing I thought of was Barclay's holodeck.
Yeah.
He had all the characters in it. Which Picard was in that.
Yeah.
He was. We've seen Picard do this before. Yeah, and it's one of those like sort of happy accidents where Star Trek kind of treads on the same kind of territory, and it calls back to things that they've played in before. Who knows if that was intentional or not? But people like us are going to catch those things, and it's cool for us. So yeah.
Yeah, because I heard somebody say about his white suit as well was similar to one in Indiana Jones. Don't know if it was or not, but was it Belloc, I think? Obviously, wears the white suit.
Yeah.
So he said it might be something to do with him liking archaeology.
Yeah.
True. He likes white suits.
True. Could be like
on the stream with that. I called it a John Hammond-esque. Like I feel like he was going to be introducing dinosaurs and stuff like that. Some Voyager dinosaurs on there. Yeah.
Yes.
Can't think what they call them.
Yeah.
The Voth.
Voth, that's it. Yeah.
Yep.
What did you guys think of the stuff on the cube?
I'll just say the Borg cube stuff is I don't want to call it my. It's not a problem. It's just I feel like I'm ready for that story to sort of move forward. I feel like for the last few episodes it's been. I'm sure it's building to something. Clearly, this is a huge component of the story, but I do feel like. And Jim Morehouse wrote the review on TrekCore, and I think he talked about it. Sometimes feeling a little repetitive, these scenes where Narek is sort of courting Soji, and it's sort of slowly deteriorating, maybe a little bit. But he has these scenes with her, and he's trying to get some information out of her, naturally building trust, and then his Romulan sister, I think, counterpart, who doesn't see this mission sort of the same way, comes in and gives him a spiel about you're running out of time, hurry up, you got to deal with this. Like I'm ready for something else to happen. I'm ready for this story to take a next natural step. The way that I feel like the Picard story on the ship is moving forward, and it feels like we're getting new stuff and it's moving in a direction. I'm interested. I'm intrigued. There's a lot of mystery stuff going on that I'm very anxious to hear. What's all going on that ship and what they're doing with these Romulans and ex-assimilated Romulans and what this Borg ship is meant to do. But I'm anxious for that to move forward. What do you think, Ian, about that?
Yeah, it does. At the moment, it feels a bit almost like stretched out. Like it could have been just like an episode on its own, but they've stretched it out over a few of them at the moment. So those bits do seem, especially at the moment, they seem quite separate to the main story that's going on. Yeah. But obviously, it will all come together and join up with it.
No doubt.
Yeah. Obviously, the brother and sister do seem a bit closer than they should as well.
Yes.
Which does seem a bit odd.
I don't know.
I don't know what's going on there. Yeah. But there's definitely, like you said, the story that they're building is something's happened with these Romulans who were assimilated. And I don't know.
How does Soji connect?
Didn't they say they're the first? Yeah, they said they're the first Romulans assimilated, I think they said.
Yeah, and there's a lot of debate on what that means. Yeah. Romulans actually Romulans assimilated, or is it Romulans assimilated on this cube? Like, who really? I don't know. I think there's a lot of debate.
It's building the story, and hopefully it's going to be a good payoff to it. So
that's what I feel like what did you think, Dan? About that? Are you feeling kind of the same way? Or are you
with the cube stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's definitely, you kind of beat a dead horse, right? You get it. They're flirting. They're then the sister comes in, say you need to do this, and then it happens over and over and over again. But I think that it's interesting because I realized that why that they're doing this is because they don't know where Maddox is either. I thought that they, I don't know what I thought. But it's not just about Maddox. It's something else because they've talked about the destroyer and stuff like that. So, but we don't know if she's the destroyer of the Borg or the Romulans or whatever.
Everything.
There's
a lot of.
Was it the I think they called it that she was. And they said about somebody waking up or the certain people waking up. And it could be the sort of androids or the Borg, the way they said it.
Yeah,
could go sort of either way.
Could be too.
But she's like you said, she's the destroyer. She leads the whole thing.
Sure. It everything that they're doing with this story is clearly designed to. I think Rob mentioned it, dragging out on purpose. Like it's clearly designed to be a slow burn, and it feels. I don't feel comfortable criticizing it because I feel like intentionally it's clearly somewhere and we just don't have the answers yet. This is the one time we're going to be kind of watching this without like the knowledge going in of this is where it's going. I'm ready to see it move forward, but it's clearly an incomplete story. There's a mystery to it that we don't even have full context of. Like you said, Ian, there's colors of it and there's sides of it that we don't even totally understand yet. Because I don't think the characters understand it. I think everybody's kind of operating on, maybe with the exception of maybe Narek and his sister, who might have a little bit more knowledge that they're not sharing with the audience. But the people who are around don't understand it either. So we're kind of unpacking it along with Soji, for example, her character. She clearly really
we're learning it with them.
Mean.
So,
But I think there's a connection to the Borg and androids because we've seen that before in Trek. We've seen it in what's the season 6 premiere of Descent, and then also in First Contact. Right, they're connected somehow.
Mm-hmm. They're intrigued with each other.
But I don't know what that connection is, or if they're not even connected at all. Maybe they're saying, we've done this before.
And I think you said it, Dan, like the way that Picard story is kind of moving right now is it's all about, we got to find Bruce Maddox so we can get more context, more answers about where she might be and what she's doing, what her purpose is. But there's clearly much more to this than just Bruce Maddox. Like right now, and it's amazing. We're looking for Bruce Maddox. I still have to pinch myself, that we're on this, watching the Star Trek show where we're looking for Bruce Maddox after all this time. That's pretty crazy. But there's clearly a whole lot more going on than just looking for Bruce Maddox. That's just going to be a piece of the puzzle. There's a whole lot we don't know. And even going back to Discovery, I mean, Discovery for sure had, elements of this in the first and second seasons where there was a lot of mystery box that, people would term it. Like the storytelling is not designed to hand you easy answers, and they're not episodes that are like cut out beginning, middle, and an end. There's questions that don't get answered until the season's kind of wrapping up.
So by the time we get to the end, we'll know everything was going on. Unless they leave something on a cliffhanger. Which hopefully they don't. At least wrap this bit up. Yeah.
Rob's asking, who's our favorite member of Picard's motley crew so far? Why? What do you think, Ian? Do you, aside from Picard, I'm assuming, of course, of these new cast members, who are you most interested in?
I'm kind of like in Dr. Jurati. I think she's sort of coming across as just like a normal person in space. Like when she come out, sort of wandering around going, space is boring. They just sort of spending hours just getting to a different planet. That's the bits you never see on the show. Obviously, they just cut that bit.
Right. I love
they spend hours just going back and forth, don't they?
Yeah.
So I think it's her at the moment. Okay. Then I also like all the holograms that Rios has got as well.
Yeah.
If they can count as a member.
True. They're all very cool. Emmett's nice. The speak Spanish in the middle of the battle is really cool. What about you, Dan? Do you have a favorite?
I think I talked about it last time, but I still like the captain. I think he didn't get a lot to do this episode, but I think as the series goes on, I think we're gonna find a little bit more about him and how he's gonna interact with Picard, because it was funny. When they I don't know, didn't they try to they said the orders at the same time or something like that? I thought that was kind of cute, you know.
Sure.
But I think
they opened the channel and he looked at him and was like, "Oh, sorry."
Yeah.
What about you, Bill? Besides Picard.
They all have their merits.
Yeah.
Jurati feels very Star Trek to me, in a way that we talked a lot during the beginning of Discovery, the way Tilly was sort of the embodiment of what they tried to do with Bashir and later Harry Kim, this green, raw Starfleet officer who's not used to being in space and has to go through all those things. Jurati's even a step further than that. She's not a Starfleet officer, she's a scientist. But she feels like a... Well, there's... I suspect... I have my own theories about what's happening there.
I love how they set that up, because at least all the characters to me feel really Romulan in that you don't really trust them, but they're there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
True. You never quite know, because they're all like we talked about last week. They're all sort of lost souls. They're all people who are left behind by Star's change and priorities and the shakeup that all this led to. So they're all kind of in no man's land, and you're right. They're all there for their own sort of reasons, and I love Rios as well. I think the fact that all of his holograms look like him says a lot about him. He only really trusts himself.
Yeah.
He doesn't have any faith in anybody else. He doesn't even have faith in holograms that aren't programmed by him. So I like him a lot. I love Michelle Hurd's Rafi too. I love the history that she has with Picard. I love the fact that she's not intimidated by him and feels very much on an even keel with him. I think that unique relationship with Picard is humbling, even for us, as outsiders. We're used to people kind of sort of bowing to the toes and to the feet of Jean-Luc Picard on screen in Star Trek. Who's going to challenge him? Well, she will, because she was really burned by what happened.
I say she almost seemed a bit bored of him. When he did his engage at the end of the last one, she was rolling her eyes.
Yeah, rolling her eyes.
Here we go.
Yeah.
I love her mimicking Picard and asking Rios, really, he came in and said for Vashi, and then you just said okay. I love that scene. I thought that was really cool. So I think I would say Rafi right now would be my one. So nice. I think that's representative of, we all said somebody different, except Rob. I'm not sure. Or Rob did say he's Team Jurati, lovable and dedicated.
There we go.
There you go. So Jurati wins, 2 votes.
Nice.
But I think they're all interesting. I think it's very early, obviously. A lot more to come with rolling out these characters and further developing them. And like Dan said, they're all sort of shady. There's more to them than we know at this point. They're all there for their own reasons, and I don't know if I'd go as far as to say I don't trust them yet, but there's shades to them that we are intentionally in the dark about. So yeah. And he also asks, do we think 7 of 9, who obviously appears at the very, very end of the episode, having saved helped their ship, the La Serena, battle off that Romulan bird of prey? Is she going to be with them? Is she joining? What do you guys anticipate seeing happen with 7's involvement?
Don't they?
I don't know if she's going to carry on. I don't know. I haven't heard whether.
I thought
a lot of the stuff you always hear beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading into it a little bit too much, but on IMDb, it's she's credited in multiple episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she'll stick around.
I suspect my guess is in a similar fashion to the way that Discovery Michelle Yeoh. I think she'll be kind of in and out.
That's true. Yeah.
Tied into it, but maybe not necessarily like an active member of the crew on this ship. That's my guess. Mm-hmm. But who knows? You can't talk about this episode though and not talk the sheer giddiness of just seeing her again, and like how there's like just the way she moves her head, like it's so clearly not.
Yeah, she does a little head tilt, doesn't she?
Yeah, it's 7 of 9. Like it's so perfectly what you would expect that character to be. Like there's no rust on Jerry Ryan at all. Like Jerry Ryan, if you see her in like convention appearances and in interviews, she's very like loosey goosey, relaxed. You know, seems like a very fun person. And 7 of 9 physically moves very differently. She's rigid and like everything's like pointed and it's tense and just the way she beams onto that ship and the way she's moving her head is purely 7 of 9. Tells you Jerry Ryan.
I saw I think it was Trek Core put a thing on about the music when she came on as well, and it was a bit of the Voyager theme.
There's a little teeny tinge of it.
I have to go back.
There's only a couple of notes in it. I didn't notice when I watched it.
I didn't either.
If you look at the Trek Core thing, they put the 2 back to back. You can hear it then.
Yeah, you can hear it a little bit there. It's even I kind of struggle to like completely. If nobody pointed it out, I don't think I would have.
No, if they hadn't said, I wouldn't have noticed.
It's really, really subtle, which is probably the way to go. I think blasting the Voyager theme at that moment is probably would be a little thick. But just a little tinge of it is just enough. But it's clearly like, if I'm being completely honest, as the Star Trek fan that I am, as much as I love the entire episode, the peak of my giddiness was the last 20 seconds when she beams onto the ship. Just I can't believe this is happening at 7 of 9. She's on this show. We're seeing her again, and we've known that this was coming. She was in the first trailer, of any substance. So it's not like it's a huge surprise. But seeing her in real time, like on this show, 20 years later after Voyager's been long gone, is exciting times. You know, seeing Picard again is obviously huge, and you know he's a legend. But you know, 7 of 9 incorporating into this show is a heck of a treat.
Do you think they're gonna stick to?
She's part of this. Oh, go on.
No, go ahead.
No, yeah. Go ahead, Ian.
I was gonna say she's part of this Fenris Rangers, isn't she?
That's what it seems
that's
like.
Gonna play a part into anything?
I'm sure we're gonna learn more about them. I know. I think on Trek Core,
we don't know much at the moment.
We don't know much. I think Trek Core ran something that kind of defined them as an organization that kind of patrols the neutral zone, the old zone, tries to keep order, and keep it from becoming a completely, lawless, chaotic region of space or something. I don't know too much. Yeah, trying to keep it from becoming the Wild West. I'm sure in this next episode, I imagine get formally kind of reintroduced to 7 of 9. We're going to find out more about what their purpose is and what their, are they good? Are they bad? Are they somewhere in between? But it feels perfectly at home to me that 7 of 9 would end up in a place like that, working in a, doing a job like that. I didn't foresee, even when Voyager was on, when I was a kid, 7 of 9 like cleanly fitting into the Starfleet Federation model. It didn't feel natural to me that that's where she would end up. So this feels cool and natural to me, without knowing more about it, at least. What were you gonna say, Dan?
That was my question. Is what do you guys think the backstory of 709 is gonna be? Are they gonna follow? Are they gonna make up something new? Or are they gonna try to follow the books a little bit? I know Rob can probably attest to some of the backstory that she's gone through in the books, but there's definitely a question mark. Just because I think you're right, Bill, because I think a lot of those crew members on Voyager didn't really fit in Starfleet, but I guess their circumstances led to them being a part of it, I guess.
Sure, yeah.
But when you think of the Maquis and then 7 of 9 and then Neelix, this is again a ragtag group that doesn't really fit in the Starfleet model.
Right. Quite a few of those Maquis officers who become Voyager crewmen tried Starfleet and it wasn't for them, whether it was somebody like Chakotay who had kind of a long career beforehand, or B'Elanna who flunked out of the academy. So you have a mix of that and a mix of people who would have never gone there to begin with. So yeah, I mean, Voyager's kind of full of those kinds of characters, and 7 of 9 is her own animal, like her own. Obviously, that's a whole unique ball of wax. But she never struck me as somebody who would be able to like blink her eyes and arrive at Starfleet and put her in a uniform and there she goes. It just never that was never my assumption of where she was going to end up.
But it seems like people don't think highly of Starfleet anymore.
True.
Yeah.
True. So that's going to be the question. Like, is Seven another character who maybe doing things with Starfleet and the Federation? Maybe she was for a period of time, and like all these other characters, did she peel off when all the change kind of ensued, or is this kind of where she's been all along? Those are the questions that we kind of get answers to as the story rolls on.
Ian, I have a few questions for you because Bill and I have been on and talked about the start of this Picard's series, but just what are your overall thoughts of how it's going and how it's been started? Because this is this episode we were specifically talking about the fourth iteration of Star Trek Picard, but I want to know overall through the first four.
Are you happy with it?
Are you happy? Met your expectations?
Yeah, I wasn't totally sure what to expect about it, but yeah, I am, and I think they've built it up in a good way as well. Once it started, a few people have said about how it's quite slow and there's not much happening, but I think it needed that, and obviously they spread the first two episodes over three because there was just so much going on.
Yeah.
So we got more than obviously what we would have had as well. But I like the way they've set it up. Like you said, there's every episode now has got a bit of a flashback at the start.
Yeah.
There's like a cold open. So it's there's obviously building on every time you just start each episode, they're building on the history and everything's coming on. So I really like the way it's going at the moment.
So I guess this is tough to kind of talk about, but let's I'm gonna talk about ranking, and maybe Bill is better equipped to kind of talk about this, and maybe this is a question for both of you. Your overall rankings of how this holds up to the first four episodes of the other series. Maybe go a little bit bigger. Instead of go episode by episode, maybe go switch it to the beginning of each other. Shows.
Yeah,
I'm most comfortable. Speaking for myself, I'm most comfortable comparing it to Discovery, just in the sense that it's now and it's tackling the story in a serialized format, a shorter kind of a season. I think that's the easiest comparison to make, as opposed to comparing it to like the first four episodes of Voyager or TNG or TOS. Yeah. But compared to Discovery, I think for myself, I said this last week, I think Picard makes Discovery look episodic. Like, I think Picard is the closest thing we've gotten to like a Star Trek novel on screen. The way it's so hard for me, and I'm somebody, we talked about this last week. It's so hard for me to not rank. Like, I want to rank things. Like, that's just how my brain's kind of. I want to give it a grade. I want to put it in a nice, like, this is where they stack up. But with this show, it's really hard because it feels like it feels like the next chapter of a bigger story, as opposed to something episodic. Where even in Discovery, the episodes are like, Context is for Kings is an episode you can say this is for Kings, and most people are going to be like, yeah, that's the one with, and Lorca's introduction, Tilly's introduction, and like they're clearly defined. This show is so much more serialized. It's really, really hard. But there hasn't been, for my money, there hasn't been a misfire yet at all. I think some people were a little down on the second episode, Maps and Legends. I can't.
Yeah, a few people say it was a bit slower.
Yeah, that's the one that I feel like has gotten the most sort of maybe beat up.
That was the first three of the pilot, then that was the middle of the pilot, so it was taking on the first and setting up the third. So
right, yeah, that's what makes it hard for me. I think I want to look at those three episodes as sort of a single thing. Like, that's, to me, is those three episodes are comparable to like Broken Bow and to like Emissary and Caretaker. Like, that's the comparison that I want to make.
Three as the pilot, then. So which is your favorite pilot, or your top pilot?
Yeah.
Man, it's hard. It's really hard. I'm tempted to say Picard, just because it's such a step forward for the whole universe, and it's such a different thing. But it's also so new, and it's hard to
look at it
something like
definitely.
Emissary, which these other pilots that I've seen so many times, and there's like the context of history around them, and you know where the shows go and how the things in them pay off later on. Where Picard, it's so raw and fresh. But I mean, I would comfortably say that if I couldn't really be happier with them. I think they did exactly what I hoped they would do. They set this story up without dumping a whole bunch of information in front of my lap in a tight, neat little package through a captain's log or a wordy prologue or something. I think the way that they've balanced, like Dan said, the backstory, the history, building off of the canon and the continuity of Star Trek, while obviously taking the whole thing into a new direction, is a taller ask than what a lot of these other shows have had to do in the past. So I'm impressed by Picard's ability to step into a whole different direction and do Star Trek. Like people would say, "Oh man, Discovery's so different," and it is. Discovery's its own thing, just like this is. But this is a total departure from what other Star Trek has been in the past. So on that level, I'm without answering the question because I can't completely.
It is a hard question. Yeah,
it's really, really hard.
Yeah.
I will say that. I mean, you first. Actually, go ahead, Ian. Like anything you want to share about those kinds of thoughts and questions, I'm anxious to hear.
I always seem I tend to go where they seem to get better on every one. Like they've learned from the previous ones.
Yeah.
Sure.
Like the original series, they had obviously they had 2 or 3, depending on which way you look at it, and each one is sort of built on each one. So I tend to go with the newer one is always the better one. So this kind of goes sort of backwards for me. So the Picard will be the best one at the moment, and then they go back from there at the moment.
Right.
Because Discoveries was a good one as well. Obviously, was it Battle of the Binary Stars?
Yeah, and Battle of Binary Stars. Yeah.
Oh yeah, that was the first one. Yeah, the 2. Yeah. I tend to think they go sort of backwards that way, and each one has got they've sort of learned what makes a good pilot from the previous ones.
Yeah.
So at the moment, I'd say Picard is the best one.
Yeah.
Until the next one starts, and then that'll probably be the best.
Lower Decks will take the cake eventually.
Yeah, that'll be the best one.
It probably will. But I mean, it's a good point. I think it's been a natural sort of step forward for Star Trek as a whole. Like each show has tried to do something new and tried to push the envelope a little bit more in their own way. Yeah. And the pilots are really representative of what the show is designed to do. I mean, you can debate how successfully maybe some of these shows in the past have like capitalized on their premises, and have they pushed the envelope enough? Have they done what the show like set out to do? But if you just look at the individual pilots, it's pretty clear what each show is kind of conceived to be. There is a clear evolution if you just watch the pilots.
Yeah. And obviously the previous one sort of had to sell the whole show as well, whereas this one it was almost sold before they made it, really. So that was a different start off straight off.
Yeah. Discovery, the ask on Discovery was enormous just to get this whole thing off the ground again. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But it's a different climate, right? They don't have and that they didn't Enterprise didn't have a Netflix deal or anything like that.
No.
Sure. Yeah. True. Yeah, that's definitely true. These 2 new shows are from a different era, really. I mean, they're as different now as like TOS was when TNG and DS9 did the new thing.
So it really probably isn't even fair to compare the 2 eras, right?
That's the thing that I think I'm struggling. It's finding a way to because I've said many times on Trek Live and just in conversations with people, I kind of look at Star Trek as one big whole thing. Like I have a hard time even like delineating the shows too much. Like I love them all so much for their own reasons, but I look at it as kind of one big saga, I guess. And these 2 new shows, this new era of Star Trek is so its own thing on so many different levels. Getting used to the new rhythm of it is something I'm doing. It's happening.
Yeah.
Nice.
Ian, any before we wrap this up, any predictions for next week and then into the rest of the season?
Where's this going?
I think they're going to get a free cloud next week. So I saw the
Yep.
the next week's preview on the Ready Room, and they all seem to have little adverts popping up for themselves. I'm assuming Maddox is going to show up. The way they sort of built it up, it'd be odd if he doesn't show
Seems
up.
like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would.
And it's just trying to think how the two are going to tie together, how the Borg are going to come into the android story.
Yeah.
I don't know, to be honest. I don't know what's going to happen at the moment. Like, I don't know, are they going to all meet up with Hugh at one point? They're going to have Picard, Seven, and Hugh all talking to each other? That'll be a good one.
I think that's a safe bet. I think that will happen.
It should do. They got them all there. It's got to happen.
Might as well.
When did he meet Riker? I'm not sure when. Is that the next episode?
I don't know.
Directing the next one as well, isn't he?
Or is that a flashback?
Frakes is directing the next one.
Oh, could be.
I don't think it's going to be a flashback.
You think it's going to be
That's my prediction. Yes, I think it's going to be. He's going to need to go see him for some reason. Could be wrong.
Do you think he's
Never
not
know.
on Earth then? Are they on Beta Z?
I don't know.
Could be on Beta Z, couldn't he?
He could be on Beta Z. Yeah, I could see that. If he's mad enough at Starfleet, I can see him on Deanna.
Yeah, because they take Maddox too, and he's not going to help, and they're going to take him to Beta Z, so Deanna can read him if he's hiding anything.
There you go.
No, I don't know.
Could be.
Why not?
I'm trying not to put too much weight on, because to me, I feel like there's going to be another big shift in the series. Like we've seen in Discovery Season 1, there was a big shift kind of mid-season when we went to the mirror universe, right? And it was just kind of a departure from the Klingon stuff. So are we going to see that again with Picard? I don't know.
Yeah.
Possibly. Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to.
I think it's just fun
it's
to
one of these.
speculate.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. It feels like it could go in a lot of different directions.
So.
What's that?
Yeah.
What'd you say? I'm sorry. I think you cut off before that came out.
Are you talking to me?
Was that? I cut off, did I?
Yeah, you.
I think it all cut off then.
What did you say about Discovery?
I was going to say, with Discovery, there was a lot of leaks come out beforehand. Obviously, the mirror universe and things. So we sort of knew which way it was roughly going. But with this one, it
could go
anyway.
Yeah, that's one thing you can say about Picard is, other than what we've seen in the trailers, there's really much in the way of.
And we've seen most of what was in the trailers now, so
it's true.
That's
true.
Uncharted territory.
Other than Riker and Troy, that's it.
Yeah, that's all true. It makes it to speculate about where we're heading for sure.
Yeah. Obviously, we've got Elnor now as well. We haven't spoken about Elnor a lot, have we?
We haven't spoken of Elnor much. No, Elnor is as an extension of the Romulan set. I think he's a fascinating character. He's like all these other people on the ship. He's an outsider. He's a person who's kind of been out of place for quite some time. In Elnor's case, probably forever. Really, like kind of been in not necessarily the best, most natural environment for him.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be interesting. He's going to be. I get the impression character, having lived on that planet with those women for so long, now being out in space and kind of having, go out on this mission is going to be a whole new ball of wax for him. What did you think of the introduction of his character, Ian?
I thought it was obviously they set him up with was it 14 years ago? They set up the backstory, so he's got his history with Picard already, and now he's taking what you say he took it on because he was a hopeless case or a lost cause or
a lost cause,
something like that.
Yeah.
So he's sort of just along for the ride now, and he's going to be the muscle behind him, chopping people's heads off.
I guess so. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, I think that.
No, I think he'll fit in.
Yeah,
I think he'll fit into it.
Yeah, for sure.
Have you watched the Ready Room yet?
I have not.
I have.
He popped up in the clip for that. Did you see it? He was at the end of the clip on the Ready Room.
Yeah. A cute little moment, and you should definitely watch it. Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah. It looks good. I think next week looks like a different animal. It looks much more looks more fun, looks more like I don't even know how to describe it. I mean, it looks audacious in its tone, with costume design and what's all obviously happening on Free Cloud, the kind of planet it seems to. It's going to be an interesting departure for this show.
Doing a bit more world building, because there's obviously parts of like the world that we haven't seen before, because we've always been focused on Starfleet, and now we're getting anything but. This seems like, but
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Not the kind of planet that you don't get the sense that Free Cloud's the kind of planet that you would like surely. It's not a planet that the Enterprise D would have made stop-offs at.
No, definitely not.
All right. Anything else about the episode?
What do you think about the sliding in socks part? What do you think about that part?
Sliding in socks.
I haven't mentioned that.
That I'm glad you brought it up, because it is the contentious, like the most controversial thing in the episode. And I admit
when
it
they were
pulled me
going
out
to it, I didn't know where they were going. He kept on about the Borg ritual, and obviously come down this way, take your shoes off. I say, where are they going with it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was surprised at the direction and the tone of that scene. I love the score of it, and I love.
Yeah.
I like the way it was shot, like the production elements of it, but it definitely felt unexpected, I guess, in its like childlike. Seeing that come out of a Romulan, it was pretty jarring to me. But I mean, he's playing her. I mean, he's doing what he has to do to kind of. Nothing he's doing is natural. It's not
manipulation, isn't it?
Right. Rob speculating Narek might be falling for Soji. Might turn against his sister. Like, do you see him as the type that would fall for his subject, or is he?
It could do the way they've set it up. It could go that way, and he'll turn onto her side. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where it's going.
You think that's the way it's going?
It was a playful scene, but I think that he's gonna turn. I think.
You think he's turning? You don't think he's the bad guy? You don't think he's gonna wind up being like bad of this story?
No, the sister's definitely the bad guy.
The sister, yeah.
Or
she seems more ruthless in the Admiral or Commodore O.
Yeah, Commodore, whatever.
Commodore, yeah.
Yeah. They do seem to be the more ruthless.
I think
of
the brother's
bunch.
just an operative, and he turns. I think falls for her.
Okay. He could.
That's the way that they've been setting it up. I mean, it was a really playful scene with the socks, but yeah, it was like you said, it was a little bit jarring. It took me out of the episode.
Yeah.
I was like, what's going on here?
Wow, we're really doing this. Yeah.
It was a bit odd, yeah.
And I think it's one of those things that whenever Star Trek kind of push that kind of characters in Star Trek tend to be much more buttoned up, a little bit more rigid, a little bit more like reserved. They don't do stuff like that. So when they do, it's really like a wow, what are we doing? And one of the things I like about this show is the characters in this show are not buttoned up Starfleet officers. Like the people we're spending time with are not of that type, at least anymore. So I'm liking getting a more like civilian like look at what life in the 24th century, almost the 25th century now, is like. Now, obviously, Narek is his own thing. He's a Tal Shiar agent kind of guy, and he's either genuinely falling for her and is getting ready to turn, or he's playing her to the max, and that's its own thing. But I do like the more casual, down to earth in quotes character beats that we're getting, because they're not the kind of people that we're usually following around in these Star Trek shows.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's good seeing a different side of it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Agreed.
But again, it was. I feel like that scene was like. So they beat the security system, obviously, but did they get anything out of it?
Out of the Borg cube, out of those records? No. I have to watch it again.
Then
but I don't get the
why are we sliding around on socks then? You know, if we're gonna slide around on socks, it's got to be for a purpose, right?
You would think so.
Yeah.
But you're right. That
Just
scene kind of
remember
has an obvious gain.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not sure what is it just him playing her to get her to, let her guard down.
Then
and
he kind of
trust-
misspoke, and then she got all defensive. But,
yeah, true.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he said there was no record of her on the transport.
Yeah.
Right.
Which is obviously a sign of her sort of fake background then.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's going to be interesting. There's a lot of open end. We're operating on 40% of the story right now. Like we have less than half in our at our disposal at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, I think we should wrap it up. Getting close to that hour mark. But I just want to thank Ian for coming on, being cool with the schedule change.
Thank
really
you,
cool. And,
that's all right.
Yeah, thanks, Ian.
No, that's okay. Thanks for doing it late for me as well, or early, I suppose, for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we hope to have you on again, talk about more Picard.
Absolutely.
Maybe on the main channel, the Trek Live, talk about just more Trek. You guys know the drill. The discussion doesn't have to stop here. Follow us on Twitter. I'll link Ian's Twitter down below because it's not. I just realized it's not on the overlay. But Facebook, Twitter, the Discord server, which we're on right now, using is the best way to keep the discussion going. So we'll be back next week. Another special guest, talk about Picard here on Course Heading, and then another episode of Trek Live as per usual Sundays. So. Yes,
Great.
That's been it. Thanks everybody for watching again, and thanks to Ian for coming on. See you guys.
Thanks, Ian.
Yeah.
Appreciate
So,
it. Yep.